Excuse me.
Yes, hello.
Good morning. Hello.
Good
I have a
morning.
question. I have a question for you. Two questions.
Yes.
Last week, you searched for jobs on LinkedIn related to environmental health. I'd like
Yes.
to know, when you use the term climate change, did you also include a filter for public health? I mean, did you use just one filter or both when you search on LinkedIn?
Like this? Or
Yes,
planet?
you
Healthy
use
planet?
you use two filters, or you included the one climate change name?
Two filters?
Yes, you use public health and climate change. It's possible or no?
No, no, I
Okay,
don't use public health. No.
okay.
Yeah.
And okay, thank you. Another
Yeah.
questions for you is how to look for job opportunities as a research scientist.
Okay. Hi, Patricia. Hi.
Hi,
Um,
hi.
as a research scientist, as a research in what?
In environmental health or public health?
So like energy, air,
No, no, in climate change. In climate change.
okay.
But
Um,
related with diseases affect for the climate change.
research in climate change. You want to find a job in research for climate change.
Yes, but the effects of climate change in spreads of diseases, tropical.
Oh, okay. Then you're talking about vector-borne illnesses. You're
Yes,
talking
yes,
about
vector-borne
mosquitoes. You're talking
or global
about
health.
um warming of the planet. You're talking about yeah, we can, yes. So you have to mix up how to describe the work. Yeah, yeah, that's what you're looking at. So we can try that a little bit if you want here.
Yes,
But the idea is that you have to kind of keep growing how you describe the work in order to find what you're looking for. And rarely do I use the term public health to find these jobs. Like never do I actually use it. Like,
vector-borne, for example, vector-borne diseases affect for the climate change.
correct. You have to, right. You have to connect vector-borne or just vector control. It's vector control. There's another way to describe this.
In the area of surveillance.
There we go. There we go. Mine is, hold on, let's see. Give me 1 second, guys.
The name of the, I think the technical terms is climate sensitive diseases or diseases affected by climate change.
I mean, climate change is still giving, like I still see it being pulled for those of you who are interested in this space. Mind you, emergency response, disaster preparedness kind of falls into that a little bit. Like given climate change and flooding and things like that happen across the nation, fires here in LA, for example, are considered, right, both what's happening with climate change and disaster response emergency preparedness. So just be mindful of that, where you might fall into that. But I think, yes, more describing the work and being open to how companies are positioning themselves to do this work. So what's this? Philanthropic advisor. This is probably more on the fundraising side, but sometimes these foundations are looking for. The other thing is you need to start to find like not consulting groups, but for example, like if you look up the National Public Health Law Association or the National Public Health Law, they have like they have a whole area on like how they monitor just changes to climate change, and they have different initiatives. Like, so part of it is also getting comfortable with like what's the conversation happening around some of this work. And obviously you're interested in research and not law, but there are like attorneys on here that talk about climate change, right? So
Okay.
it's understanding all, not just being so literal with like, what does research mean? It's like, well, does research mean also just being on top of the policy changes, right? So like, I think you have to be honest with yourself with what level of research you want to contribute to. Does policy interest you at all?
Mm-hmm.
Patricia, does policy
Yes,
interest you?
yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But can you can you find a job uh, for research scientist? Because it's different for research scientist and associate research. The associate research is for staff, but research
So you're talking
scientist.
about principal investigator?
Yes, yes, or the second.
Then who's hiring principal investigators? You search principal investigator.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a good example of how to use a title correctly. Because a
Yes.
lot of you are just searching like program manager, public health analyst, or community health worker. You know, I'm not knocking on that, but the jobs aren't from searching that way. But instead, if you're going to do a job search, it should be like associate, navigator, uh, coordinator, analyst. Stick to one word. Stick to one word because it pulls more. Unless you know something like this, which is a principal investigator. It's like, oh, well, that's very specific. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's look for more of those type of jobs. So just that's how I would approach using a title.
The correct term is principal investigator, but you
That
said
is
another terms.
yes, or these are jobs that cite working next to the principal investigator. So what I'm
Okay.
saying is now I'm finding jobs that just talk about the world of supporting research and principal investigators because
Yes, support the
you want to
principal
work,
investigator.
right. So Patricia, if you want to work in research, there will always be a principal investigator tied to the work. Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So you can follow their, like, okay, well, who supports principal investigators? Who's talking about principal investigators in their jobs?
Okay.
Right. So it's not literally like, and then sometimes you still get like, now you're going to run into jobs that are like background check people. No, that's not what you're going to do either. You're not going to be an actual investigator and be like, you know, so you have to skip past those jobs, but you will find jobs. Oh, this is interesting. This is like marijuana enforcement. So you run into different things, director of ethics, but you're still looking for subject matter expert. Maybe they call them subject matter experts, Patricia.
Can you share this link, please? Okay.
If you want to be a subject matter expert, then you type subject matter expert. This is
Thank
how
you.
this is how you use the job boards to teach you where the jobs are. I love that you raise this as a question. Hi, Megan. I like to look for positions at companies I know do work in what I'm looking for. Good. Yes. For example, vector-borne disease programs can be found at the Carter Center, Gates Foundation, and Clinton. Yes, those are great examples of where those types of programs fall. There are, sorry, I'm hearing sirens in the background. And I believe those are a lot, some of them are research and then some of them are like program implementation. So it just depends on your interest. So yes, I agree. Getting familiar, Patricia, with the companies that fund the work
Okay.
is part of, is on you. That's, you know, let's see what else I can find under principal investigator real quick. Those are field investigators. And then you have all of a sudden something worth looking at. You see? A stroke reviewer. Oh, well, what does that mean? But it pays 112. You know, it's like, oh, okay. But notice how it's buried in between all these other ones that are about like background checks. And obviously this one wants you to be a nurse, which doesn't help a lot of us on here unless you have that degree. Special Investigations Unit, I think that's more risk services. No. It's not obvious, Patricia, right? It's like, how do you find a principal investigator role on exactly what you want, right? That's takes like that's, and this wants you to be a physician, but at least I found one that did actually call out a principal investigator because, you know, is it a, but yeah, subject matter expert. Here we go. Let me go back to subject matter expert. Subject matter expert. In fact, subject matter expert, I think, is even part of the key terms guide, and I don't use it enough. But this also speaks to roles for all of you who are interested. This, you can search subject matter expert, like if you want to be considered one, but also if you want to support working with subject matter experts, which is essentially what a lot of us do, because we're not the ones who do the job. We're asked to be the liaison, the coordinator among the work, right? So Patricia, going back to you wanting to be a researcher, you have to get your hands on the work and start helping coordinate the work, right? Before you can get yourself to the PI level. So that means like managing the contracts or the grants or the reporting on the topic you want, right? The closer you can get to the topic, the better. But it doesn't always have to be exact. Request for proposals. So this is someone who wants someone who is, oh no, this, I'm not going to waste our time on this. This is actually someone looking for a request for proposal. Collective impact. Oh, collective impact is still popping. Social impact, collective impact. Patricia, going back to your question, this is another way to consider the work is environmental health, climate change. A lot of groups that come together talk about it as collective impact or social impact, right? So if you're like pulling money together or you're, you know, really trying to address a huge cause like homelessness or something that is a huge issue in the community, some of these groups call it social impact, collective impact, because this also bypasses a lot of the political aspect, right? They don't have to talk about public health or social services or government programs. It's all collective impact, social impact. So just food for thought for all of you. It's really about how they talk about it, not what you think it is. And they want exactly what our background is.
Yes, thank you.
Right? You're welcome. This one wants 3 years of community engagement, coalition building, program coordination, or. And master's preferred, experience with data collection, analysis, reporting. So this one's pretty strong. It's actually, I think, the best one. And it took 40 minutes to find something decent. At least that I consider worth sharing and would want to share, like even on the job alerts.